Lap 148, Michigan International Speedway. Two of NASCAR's best drivers side by side fighting for second place. Then, in less than 3 seconds, everything changed. One car went nose first into the outside wall at nearly 200 miles per hour. The wall itself bent inward and stayed there. And when the dust settled, one driver was gone, swallowed up inside the infield care center for nearly a full hour while an entire racing team held its breath. This is the story of what happened at the 2026 Firekeepers Casino 400, the crash that has Joe Gibbs Racing sitting on edge, waiting for answers that could determine whether Christopher Bell even makes it to the starting grid at Pocono next weekend. Michigan International Speedway is one of the most demanding tracks on the entire NASCAR Cup Series schedule. At 2 miles long, it is a place where cars routinely touch speeds over 200 miles per hour, and where a single mistake at the wrong moment carries consequences that no driver ever forgets. Sunday's Firekeepers Casino 400 on June 7, 2026 was already chaotic before the biggest moment of the day arrived. A record-time caution flags flew before lap 148, slowing the race, bunching up the field, and creating a constant cycle of restarts where positioning and tire strategy mattered enormously. Both Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott were having strong afternoons. Elliott had entered the race fourth in the Cup Series points standings, had already won Stage 2 and led a race-high 67 laps. Bell came in 7th in points, fresh off back-to-back runner-up finishes at Charlotte Motor Speedway and Nashville Superspeedway. He was locked into the playoffs. He was in the championship conversation, and at Michigan, he was running near the front with a real shot at a top finish. Then came the restart that changed everything. The field had just come back to green. Up front, Chase Elliott had pushed his Hendrick Motorsports teammate William Byron to the lead. Right behind them, Elliott and Bell were running side by side, both on fresh tires, both going for second place hard. Going into turn 3, Elliott tried to work the inside lane to make his move. That is when his 9 Chevrolet broke free. The rear stepped out, the car got loose, and it slid directly up the racetrack, right into Bell's 20 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota. The contact was enough. Bell's car was pointed nose first at the outside wall with no time and no room to correct. He hit at nearly a 45-degree angle, full speed. Almost 200 miles per hour, the impact was so violent that Bell's Toyota was crushed on contact and erupted into flames at the rear of the car. But it did not stop there. Elliott's Chevrolet slid back across the track and came back into Bell a second time, this time hitting him directly on the driver's side door. The two cars bounced off each other before Elliott eventually came to rest near the inside. Barrier, the safer barrier, which stands for Steel and Foam Energy Reduction, is a two-wall system with foam in between designed specifically to absorb the kind of energy that ends careers. Bell hit it so hard that the outer wall physically bent inward and stayed there. NASCAR had to throw a red flag and send out crews to make repairs. The race was stopped for more than 20 minutes. Dale Earnhardt Jr., calling the race for the Amazon Prime Video broadcast, was shaken. He said, "I haven't seen that hard of a hit in a long time." The impact of that 20 car was insane. That reaction, from someone who spent his entire career behind the wheel at tracks just like this one, tells you exactly how serious this moment was. Both Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott climbed out of their cars under their own power. That is always the first thing every fan's for. Movement, a driver standing up, any sign of life. Both men were on their feet, and the collective breath of everyone watching was finally released. Elliott walked straight over to Bell on the racetrack before either of them had even been loaded into an ambulance. The two shared an embrace right there in turn 3, in the middle of a wrecked racetrack, with debris still scattered around them. Then both were loaded into ambulances and taken to the infield care center for evaluation. What happened next told two very different stories. Elliott was checked out, cleared, and walked back out to talk to the media fairly quickly. Bell, on the other hand, stayed inside the infield care center for nearly a full hour. When he finally came out, he did not walk through the front. He slipped out the back side of the building, turned down every interview request, and did not say a single word publicly. That 1 hour, that silence, that exit through the back door, every person inside the Joe Gibbs Racing garage noticed it. And it was the first clear sign that something was not right. While Bell stayed quiet, the race was finishing up. Denny Hamlin was on his way to victory lane, and Joe Gibbs, the team owner, the man who built JGR into what it is today, stepped in front of the media for his post-race press conference. Jeff Gluck of The Athletic was the first to break it publicly, and from there it spread across every NASCAR platform within minutes. Gibbs confirmed what the garage had already begun to suspect. Christopher Bell is dealing with injuries to his wrist and ankle. Gibbs said, "I think it's just we're going to continue tonight." When he gets home, we're going to make sure that he gets everything that he needs to get there. Whatever it might be, and then we'll just have to kind of wait," he added. "It is his wrist and his ankle, I think. So we're just going to have to wait." Those were the only words Joe Gibbs Racing offered. No follow-up statement. No update from the team's official channels. Nothing beyond what Gibbs said at that podium. The entire organization is now waiting for Bell to return to North Carolina, where he will be evaluated by doctors who will determine the extent of the damage to his wrist and his ankle, and whether he is able to compete at Pocono the following weekend. The word every single person at JGR is living with right now: wait. Chase Elliott did not hide from what happened. He did not deflect, qualify, or search for an explanation that softened his role in the crash. He stood in front of the cameras and took every bit of the blame squarely on himself. He told the media, "I'm fine. It was totally my fault. I feel really bad for Bell and just taking him out. I was just trying to run in the bottom and kind of make use of our fresh tires and try and at least get to second." He went on to explain exactly what happened in the corner. "I got in there and got free. I thought I was going to spin and was kind of committing to spinning out. As soon as I started to commit to spinning, it just hooked up and hooked a right and unfortunately sent Christopher into the wall super hard and me shortly there behind. Just racing really hard. I felt like that was kind of a turning point in the race. We needed to make something happen and stepped over the line and paid for it." Elliott had already apologized to Bell directly on the track before either of them had said a word to anyone else. He addressed that too. "I just told him I'm sorry. Obviously it was not on purpose, but I knew that was a big hit for both of us. I think he took the brunt of it, honestly, with 2 really big hits. I have a lot of respect for Bell and feel like we always race each other with respect on track. I don't want that to happen to anyone." Elliott walked away with no lingering injuries of his own. He was evaluated, cleared, and physically fine. The damage from this incident for Elliott is not physical. It is the weight of knowing that his mistake sent one of the sport's best drivers into a wall at full speed and left him facing a week of medical uncertainty. When a crash that violent happens at those speeds, it does not just affect the 2 drivers involved. Every person watching inside that garage felt it in real time. Ryan Preece immediately got on his team radio and said, "Let me know if he's okay, that was wild." Bubba Wallace's reaction was even more raw. He said over his radio, "Holy expletive, please tell me that guy's all right." He later described it as the scariest hit he had ever witnessed. Kyle Larson was physically impacted by the wreck himself. From Bell's car came flying off the crash and struck Larson's number 5 Chevrolet. His crew chief, Cliff Daniels, later identified exactly what it was. Daniels said, "We think it was the right side window from the 20 that hit us." A piece of Bell's car, traveling at race speed, had broken off and become a projectile. That is the level of violence this crash carried. Christopher Bell did not just have a bad day at Michigan. He had one of the hardest crashes the NASCAR Cup Series has seen this season, and he is walking, or more accurately sitting with the consequences of it. All season long, Bell has been one of the most consistent and dangerous drivers in the field. He is already locked into the playoffs. He has been part of the championship conversation since the opening race of the year. He came into Michigan off back-to-back second-place finishes at Charlotte and Nashville, 2 of the most competitive tracks on the schedule. He was not a driver trending down. He was a driver trending directly toward a win. Now Joe Gibbs Racing has to manage something far more serious than a finishing position. A wrist injury and an ankle injury both directly affect a driver's ability to physically operate a race car. Steering input, throttle application, braking, all of it runs through the hands and feet. Until doctors in North Carolina complete their evaluation, nobody inside JGR can say with certainty whether Bell will be behind the wheel at Pocono Raceway for the Great American Getaway 400 on Sunday. Bell is expected to be in the car. That is the current plan, but expectation and confirmation are 2 different things, and right now the team only has the former. If the medical evaluation returns results that raise concern, if those injuries are more significant than they appear, his Pocono availability becomes a real and immediate question. Missing even a single race at this point in the season carries serious consequences. The NASCAR Cup Series regular season runs through August. The chase, the playoffs, begins September 6 at Darlington Raceway. Every point between now and then matters. Bell entered Michigan in 7th place in the standings, 258 points behind Tyler Reddick. He cannot afford to give those positions away by sitting on the sideline when a wrist or an ankle is keeping him out of a car he is otherwise ready to drive. While the number 20 team was dealing with the worst moments of their season, the race itself still had to be run. And when it was, Denny Hamlin delivered one of the most complete performances of his career. Hamlin had won the pole position for Sunday's race, but was forced to start from the rear of the 37-car field after his team made adjustments to the car following qualifying that were not approved. He spent the opening stage buried between 20th and 30th place, working through traffic and letting his crew make adjustments throughout the afternoon. By lap 140, he was in the top 5. By the final stage, he was taking over. Hamlin led the final 39 laps of the 200-lap race and crossed the finish line by an 110-second margin, the kind of gap that signals total dominance in the closing stretch. It was his third win of the 2026 season, his second consecutive last-to-first effort, and the 63rd Cup Series win of his career. That number, 63, ties him with the late Kyle Busch for 9th place on the all-time NASCAR Cup Series wins list. And Hamlin made sure that milestone meant exactly what it should. He drove his victory lap while waving a black and white No. 18 Kyle Busch tribute flag out of his driver's window. The massive grandstand crowd responded with a standing ovation. Kyle Busch had passed away just 2 weeks earlier from pneumonia and sepsis. The tribute in front of a full crowd at Michigan was exactly the kind of moment the sport needed. Hamlin said after the win, "The off-season was rough for me, rough for the NASCAR family. We lost a lot of people. This week we lost gentleman Ned Jarrett, and still thinking of Kyle Busch, his wife Samantha, and children Brexton and Lennox. Just grateful to be able to strap in every week, and I don't take it for granted." Behind Hamlin, Eric Jones, a Michigan native, finished second for his best result of the season. Bubba Wallace was third in the 23SI Racing Toyota. Kyle Larson took fourth. Carson Hocevar rounded out the top 5. Points leader Tyler Reddick had a race to forget. He was collected in a separate 9-car chain reaction crash on a lap 83 restart, triggered when Carson Hocevar tipped John Hunter Nemechek sideways, setting off a chain reaction that swept through the lead pack. Reddick's No. 45 Toyota backed into the inside wall and the team was unable to complete repairs. He was credited with a 35th place finish, his first DNF of the 2026 season. His points lead over Hamlin, which had stood at 97 points entering Michigan, was cut nearly in half. Reddick now leads Hamlin by just 51 points with 11 races remaining in the regular season. Christopher Bell finished 31st. Chase Elliott finished 32nd. Two of the best cars in the race, both eliminated on lap 148, both sitting at the bottom of the results sheet. Finishing positions are not what anyone in the NASCAR world is talking about right now. 31st and 32nd are irrelevant numbers compared to what comes next. The only question that matters right now, from every fan, from every driver, from every corner of the garage, is this: how hurt is Christopher Bell? The answer is coming. This week, Bell will be seen by doctors in North Carolina. Those evaluations will determine what the damage to his wrist and his ankle actually looks like, how serious it is, and what the timeline looks like for recovery. Until those results are known, Joe Gibbs Racing cannot confirm what they know. 20 car will look like at Pocono Raceway on Sunday. Joe Gibbs Racing waits, the number 20 fans wait, the entire NASCAR paddock waits. And somewhere in North Carolina, Christopher Bell is dealing with the physical cost of one of the most violent crashes this season has produced, hoping that the answer the doctors give him this week is the one everyone is counting on. If you want more NASCAR coverage like this, every crash, every development, every story that matters, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More is coming.